Hello, everybody, and welcome to my Storybook. Tonight, this is the part 9 of this book called Dog Whisper, The Rescue. Last time I have read chapter 15 and chapter 16 in this book. Now, this is the part 9 of tonight's the episode of Dog Whisper, The Rescue. And I'll be reading chapter 17 and chapter 18 in this book. Miss Griswold might have been odd. Miss Griswold might have been tall once, but as long as Emily had known her, she had been hunting over a cane. She was probably in her early 60s, but it was hard to be sure. Her hair was closer to white than gray and was almost always piled up miserably underneath and floppy, big fishing hat, complete with homemade lures. Miss Griswold was the kind of person who always wore a sweater, no matter how worn it was. It was, even by crusty, New England standards, considered particular. As far as Emily was concerned, she was just mean and really real, too. What's all this? Miss Griswold demanded. Why are you sitting there staring at my house? I, I'm sorry, Emily said quickly, as the woman came bravely down her front walk towards them, making a remarkably good time on her cane. My dog got a little bit tired. We just, um, we're about to leave. Zach got up and raised his tail charmingly. Miss Griswold narrowed her eyes, surprisingly clear blue eyes, at him. Since when do you people have a dog? Hmm. Since Emily felt so nervous that she couldn't remember. I'm not sure. Just, you know, wistfully. Miss Griswold scolded at both of them. Well, I had better not hear the animal barking. I don't like to be disturbed. Emily was much too polite to say, yeah, no kidding, but she did think it. No, ma'am, he won't. They looked at each other uncomfortably, but also not without some mutual hospitality. Going on with your, going on with you now, Miss Griswold said crossly. I can't hear myself think, with you out here watching like this. Emily, for one, do not need to be told twice. Come on, boy, she said, and laying him down the road towards her house. Zach followed Emily enough, but she saw him look back a couple of times. Obviously curious, it was a big relief to see Bobby heading in that direction, dragging in the way Milton wagon along behind him. Since he was so much heavier now because of eating regular meals, it was kind of a production to get Zach up into it. It was great that he wasn't as thin and bony as he had been even a couple of days early, but it did make him more difficult to lift. Why didn't you guys wait for me? Bobby asked, looking disappointed. I came back like as far as I could. Miss Grinchbull came out, Emily said, and couldn't hold back his shiver. Bobby's eyes wandered. Wow, did she throw anything at you? Emily shook her head. I think she maybe wanted to, but she just told us she didn't want us in front of her house, so we left. Did she scream and shake her fist? Bobby asked. Emily shook her head. Not really. She was just cross. Did she have her gun? he asked. Since she figured he was kidding, Emily nodded. Yeah, it was huge. Like in the movies. Bobby's eyes widened even more. I'm kidding, she said. He blushed but nodded. Yeah, knew you were, maybe. Once he was finally in a wagon. Zach seems to like his new piece very much, logging him down quietly regularly. His cast was casually popping up on the side of the wagon, and he had stopped painting. His tail was dangling over the edge, and she picked it up, tucking it inside the wagon so that it wouldn't get caught in the rails. He looks pretty happy, Bobby said. Maybe we should take him for a little ride. Emily nodded. Since that seemed positively delighting to be sitting in the wagon and no longer tired at all. Sure, why not? We haven't been able to explore much, and he'll probably curious about what's around here. So they pulled him almost all the way up to the access wall. Before turning around to go back, her mother called her cell phone at one point to ask why they wouldn't home yet. And when Emily explains, her mother laughed and said that they should go ahead and give him the grand tour. Zach really seems to enjoy trundling along even though the ride must be pretty bumpy. He looked around attentively at everything they passed, almost as though he was taking mental notes about the entire neighborhood. Then again, there wasn't that much to show him. This part of the peninsula was narrow, so they could see the water on both sides of the road, except for the huge extra model mansion that had been built by some people who visited maybe 2 weekends a year. The house was mostly on the small side and surrounded by pine trees. The dirt road itself was very sunny and dry enough to be dusty, but almost the house were in the shade. The lots were pretty far apart, and the area was rural enough so that each home seems quite private. Most of the houses have docks, and at least half of them have sailboats or motorboats anchored nearby. Dr. Henry, Dr. Henry, who had taught Galilei at the college before he retired, waved at them from his really impressed at English floral gardening, and they waved back. Fine dog you have there, Emily. He called. Emily. He called. Your father told me all about it down at the store. Thank you, Emily called back. His name's Zachary. Dr. Henry nodded approvingly. It's silent choice, very defining. I'll be sure to tell everyone when I go down to get the evening edition. Obviously, there was more than one store in town, but everyone in this part of Bailey's court always bought their milk and newspapers and other necessaries that Sarah Smith bought. Sarah had one the Sarah had one of the little stores for girls. It looked like he was about 120, although he ran around like he was only 80 or so. The rumor around town was that he never actually slept because the store always seemed to be open, even during the middle of the hurricanes and blizzards. Sarah, like everyone, except tourists, Miss Griswold and Bobby, want to go down and say hi to Chris. Emily asked, Hey, Bobby said, and made a face. When he was about 6 years old, Bobby had tried to shoplift a Snickers bar from the front counter, and Sarah had never forgiven him. For that matter, Sarah always referred to Bobby's father as that lousy redneck punk, because when he was about the same age, he had stolen and promoted eating a piece of red logolo from the penny candy section. Because of that, Sarah was describing Bobby's entire family as being bad to the bone. But Sarah loved hiking more than everything, and Emily had learned that the best way to get along with him was to say, "How are those black bears doing?" So every time she saw him, asking about the Portland Pirates and Boston Bruins worked pretty well too. He didn't care much about the boring polar bears, but since she was a failure child, he was popular about that and pretending to find them interesting too. A couple of cars were coming down the road, and they moved the wagon safely to the side, waiting for them to go by. One of them was being driven by a cart. We sometimes hauled traps for Bobby's father, and he beeping the horn once down as he passed. The other car was going very slowly and in and out stopping about 100 feet away. Some people who were obviously tourists, it was always easy to tell for the silver t-shirts they had inclined to wear to the delighting isn't New England a double expression they often had on their faces. Go out and made in a brand new, very stiff, perfectly clear red sock cap stayed behind the wheel when two women in peach shoes and a man with a fancy camel that would have made Emily's father Doyle walk over. Look at that, one of the women said to the other. That is a mean. That is so mean. Bobby raised his eyeballs at Emily. He shrugged yeah, yeah, whatever. Just humming at them at him. I can't take no picture. The man with the camera asked. Emily and Bobby paused and politely, and even that posture seemed to improve at once. The man walked back and forth to select the best angle and then snapping up a regular series of photos. Emily managed not to carry us at the careless rate he was swimming in the camera and super fancy lanes around, not even supporting it to it properly, or whether the strap around his neck. Had her father witnessed the scene, he might have fainted dead anyway. It went without saying that everyone in Maine, not just Sarah, complaining or yell around about tortures, even through Emily's mother, sometimes pointing out at town council meetings and other gatherings that they did contribute a lot to the state's economy. Most locals will say something like, well, Joanne, you're not a nerd. You just didn't understand. Her parents had lived in Maine for almost 20 years now, but a lot of people still thought of them as being newcomers. Since her father had a little bit of the New York accent, he was always described by people as being far away. Such a beautiful day, one of the women said. She was wearing a big straw hat with flowers and a strap of ribbon on it, when the other woman had settled for oversized yellow sunglasses. And young, Bobby said. with such a perfect accent that Emily had to bite her lip not to crack up. Tourists were pretty sure that people in Maine always said and yawned, and still, yes, we're trying to find Cole's sea shack. The woman in the hat said, we asked the man at the general store, but he didn't seem to know where it was. That meant that settler must be in an unusual good mood when he was cracking like he liked to send tourists miles away from Danes. Anyway, Carlos was a famous local restaurant which specialized in the lobster and fried clams served on paper plates. Crying can't get there for high, Bobby said. This time, Emily had to fight even harder not to laugh, since he just used about four WSS, Boston, Sutton, Maine, and the Delta Harbor in a single sentence. Hmm. The woman in the sunglasses. Follow. I'm going to ask my husband to check the GPS. There's some folks near the end at this high on the wall. Show the best lobsters down east, Bobby said, just as heartful as can be. Think they'll go by the name of Panavera, and I reckon they might be able to still green white. Emily Grimmer, since he was talking about his parents, Bobby's father sold most of his hog commemoration, but he and Miss Panavera also ran a small lobster pond of their own for locals to make extra money. Thank you, the other woman said, and then smiled at Emily. Are you enjoying your time out of the city? It's so peaceful up there. Bobby looked baffled, but it wasn't the first time people had jumped to incorrect conclusions about her, and it wouldn't be the last. Unfortunately, it never got any less upsetting, even when the person was well meaning, maybe ever, especially if the whole person was well meaning. It wasn't going to have to lose her temper, so Emily just nodded. I know, the fresh air fun has been so good to me. Now, Bobby looked even more confused, but the woman was nodding too. Yes, it was wonderful program. It was a wonderful program. Then she reaching out to pat Zach, who stepping in and leaned away from her. The woman hesitated, then withdrew her hand. What a cute dog. How did he get injured? Gang warfare was probably the answer that she wanted to hear. He got caught in a crossfire, Emily said, very politely. It was awful. Yes, it must have been, the woman said, her expression full of sympathy. What a blessing that he's okay. Rachel, Gordon thinks he knows the directions now. The other woman called over. Okay, good. The woman in the hat smiled at them. Enjoy the rest of your summer. Once the tourists were gone, Emily folded her arms tightly and took a couple of deep breaths. That made an instant little sound, and she unfolded her arms long enough to pat him on the head. He waggled his tail in a relieving sort of way, but still seems to be uneasy. What was that all about? Bobby said, for a really smart kid, a horrible mouth snap went way over Bobby's head, or maybe he just had David Connell weather into it. She wasn't sure if she been born with it or learned it by expression or both, but she definitely had radar. Plenty of it. I'm black, Emily said. Bobby shrugged. Okay, that's for letting. Okay, thanks for letting me know. So, if I'm in May, Emily said, that must mean that something nice country family took me in for the summer. You know, to get me out of my the pressure, the pressure in a shitty neighborhood. Bobby stared at her. Bobby stared at her. No way, Emily nodded, casting my cup completely now. Bobby's mouth dropping open. But that's produced to it. Emily shrugged. One of the expressions she helped people use was death by a dozen cuts, and it was a pretty accurate depiction. I don't think she meant it that way. It was just, her ultimately thought. Wow, Bobby said, and shook his head with disgust. That stinks. Yeah, it really did. Chapter 18. When they got back to the house, she and Bobby didn't discuss the tourists again because there really wasn't any point. But playing with the wheel for a while made them both relax and definitely helped cheer her up. Zach didn't know what to make of a game that caused people to jump wildly around the room, waving yellow plastic boxes, and he barked a few times to his express desk. Her mother invited Bobby to stay for supper, but his family was going over to his uncle's house later, and he headed home instead since it was so hot out. Her mother decided that rather than cooking a big, heavy meal, they should have tossed salad with lots of fresh vegetables and greens, plus tuna fish for her parents, and a big scoop of eggs salad for Emily. Sometimes, just for fun, they made fake eggs salad and tofu's and turmeric and all. But tonight, her mother was making the weird thing with lots of onions, pickles, and celery salt. After dinner, Emily helped her father with the dishes, while her mother was upstairs to work for a while. When they had finished cleaning up, Emily considered going online, but she didn't really feel like it. The two tense occasions this afternoon had left her short eager, and maybe even out of sorts, and she wanted to burn off a little energy. Sitting behind her laptop and filing up IMs right and left was fun and all, but it was passionate. So she took Zach for a short walk around the yard, and then flopping down on one of the deck chairs to look up at the sky. It was pretty hot, but it was a clear night, and there were lots of stars out. Zach climbing up literally onto the deck chair too, and she had to move her legs to make room for him. Even though it had only been a couple of days, it was hard to remember what it was like not to have a dog. It would be nice if Josephine could hang around outside with them, but she was an indoor cat and it wouldn't be safe for her. Besides, Emily could see her sitting in her bedroom window, and she looked quite content and superior up there. She had been outside for quite a while when the back door opened, and her father came out onto the deck. Ah, there you are, he said. I was sitting to get worried. I was starting to get worried that the two of you haven't come back yet. It's nice out there. Emily said. I didn't really want to come indoors right away. Her father nodded and leaned back on one of the roller lawn chairs. They listened to small waves breaking against the rocks, the, the chirp of crickets, the trickle of crickets, and the occasional passing cars. You're being awfully quiet tonight, he said. Is everything okay? Sure, Emily said, although she must have tension because Zachary lifted his head uneasily. So, nothing's wrong, her father asked. Emily shook her head, but she knew he didn't believe her. And since it also wasn't sure, she let out her breath. Miss Grinchwood yelled at me this afternoon because Zach had to take a rest when we were walking, and it happened to be in front of her house. He's signing. Well, she's cantankerous, which was the kind of words Emily liked, because it was easy to tell what it meant, even if it was unfriendly. She happened to know this one, but it wouldn't have mattered if she hadn't. I'm sorry if it's upset you, he said. Try not to take her too seriously. She just liked to go her own way. Or maybe she just liked to be nasty to people. But Emily nodded, looking at a small bright flicker in the sky, and wondering if it was just a plane or something more interesting than that, like a shooting star. Zan had settled back down, and she stared at some very light carbons on his chest. Since she was supposed to do it at least 4 times a day and had only done it 3 times far today. You're still pretty quiet, her father said. After a minute, is that all that's bothering you? No, she didn't want to bring it up, though, because he might get upset or, potentially even worse, outraged. Did you and Bobby quarrel? He'd asked. She shook her head. They didn't argue very often. But when she and Bobby did, it was usually a nasty one, and involved her not speaking for a few days, after which they would make up and promise never, ever, ever to let it happen again. Another boat was moving and past them out in the sound, but all they could see was a faint shoulder and its night running lights. Am I following the anal city? Emily asked. Her father must not have accepted anything like that because he sat up, looking straight. What do you mean? What was that way I was born? She asked. It took a very long time for her father to answer. No, he said. It had been a close adoption. So Emily Whitten didn't know much of anything about when she had been born, or when it came right down to it, who she was. She had a birthday, of course, September the 18th, but she wasn't even sure if that was her real birthday, or one her parents had picked out so that she would feel normal. Her mother never talking about it, but the entire subject of the adoption made her father almost as uncomfortable as it made her. So they really brought it up. But even her mother had never really given her many specific details, other than to say that her both mother had loved her enough to make sure that she would grow up in the most loving home she could find, and how lucky they were to have her. Emily assured that her parents knew a lot more than they were willing or legally able to tell her. The technical tone was an unusual and seemed an open adoption, but she personally didn't know much of anything at all. She also never got a birthday present or a Christmas card or a photograph or any other indication that either of her birthday parents even thought about her at all. She knew one adopted kid, Marianne, who was Marianne, who was from China and was a couple of years ago older than she was. Their parents, Marianne's mother, was a young European lecturer at the college had made a point of trying to get them together regularly. But as it turned out, she and Marianne had absolutely nothing in common and never did much more than said, "Oh, yeah, hi," if they happened to run into each other. "It's September 18th, my real birthday?" she asked. Her father nodded. "Of course. I mean, my real birthday," she said, "and not one you and not one you and mom give up me so that I feel, you know, more grounded." Her father let out his breath. "It's your real birthday," he said quietly. "You were only about a week old when we brought you home. Okay, that was good, and it was a much more defining piece of information than they usually told her. Want, want me to go get your mother?" her father asked. Emily looked up. Sometimes her father liked to avoid potentially completing conversations like this by mumbling that he need to go get some work done or something. "You don't want to talk about it with me. I think she will want to discuss it with us," he said. "But then it might turn into a much bigger deal than she wanted it to be. And there were too many questions they couldn't answer anyway. So they were all in getting frustrated, and she never wanted them to think that she wished she had different parents or anything like that, because it wasn't true. Supposedly, when she turned 18, she might be allowed to pretend in the court for more information, but that was a long time away. Her father stood up. "Look, I'll be right back, and then the three of us can all." "No, it's not that important. I'm just..." Emily shook her head. Zach had snuggled up a little closer to her during all of this, and she was reminded again of how incredibly nice it was to have a dog. "Well, there was a lady today." Her father hesitated, but sat back down. "What lady? What lady?" he asked carefully. "No one is, even. Even stronger. Just a lady. They were, like, you know, tourists. They asked Bobby and me how to get to colors because I guess Sarah wouldn't tell them." Her father nodded. "And she thought I was lucky to be visiting me and getting to spend time in the country," Emily said. "You know, like I was the privilege and sunshine they had to sing me up the hill." Her father sighed. "People make stupid aspirations sometimes. People make stupid estimations sometimes, Emily. I wish they didn't." "Yeah, but it wasn't kind of what happened," Emily said. "I mean, that you and mom were really nice and took me because my parents, uh, you know, both parents couldn't or wouldn't or whatever to take care of me. Her father looked a little bit like he wanted to run away, or at least go find her mother as quickly as he could. It was more complaining than that. Emily, I think it probably always is, but I know your both mother made the best decision that she could, and your mother, and I are so grateful that she did. Emily didn't want to feel grateful. She wanted to feel scully, and I'm supposed to think you're all great and everything for not wanting her. Her father shook his head. No, I think that sometimes you probably supposed to feel confusion and hurt and maybe even angry. That was good, because when it came to this particular subject, she usually felt all three of those things, and maybe sad too. She asked, her father nodded, looking pretty and sad himself. For that matter, Zach looked sad too, and when he made a small instant sound, she reached down to pat him. It's not about you and Mom, Emily said quickly. Stop patting Zach. It's just when the lady said that, it made me start thinking again, and I felt, well, I don't know, really bad, I guess. But there really aren't, you know, any answers are there. Her father sighed. No, he said, I'm afraid there aren't there. I'm afraid there aren't. And that's the end of this book called, this book, chapter 17 and chapter 18 of this part 9 of this book called Dog Whisper the Rescue. Tomorrow, I will be reading the book on part 10 in this book called Dog Whisper the Rescue, chapter 19 and chapter 20 in this book. Until then, you all take care and stay blessed. And I'll see you next time. Good night.